I mean, speaking of brand, you built an amazing brand, man. The moves that you've made for your social media, your YouTube channel, it's been phenomenal. It paid off tremendously last year.
I mean, 100% growth on the year.
Doubled.
Yeah.
That's
we
doubled.
Yeah, so we doubled.
Doubled up. You're having your best financial, busiest week ever.
Yeah.
And I remember I called you. That's when the strategy was just cold calling. We were all, do you remember that?
Yep. Going back to when I was like 12 years old, I was scratching people's cars, like washing with Dawn soap.
Are they still customers? Are they still,
No.
you still know?
No. What you think you're doing right, ultimately is what you're doing wrong.
So we connected 2021, is that right?
Yeah.
And I remember I called you. That's when the strategy was just cold calling. We were all, do you remember that?
Yep.
And then you always said that I called you, what, like 5 times a week?
Yes.
It was worth it.
Yeah, no,
it worked
I remember
out.
sitting in my driveway and you would always call me and then I'd call you on the way home. And I'd be like, hey, what's going on, man? You're like,
you were busy, man.
can we come shoot some marketing for you? And I'm like, you know what, dude, maybe another day I'll give you a call, dude. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks. I'm like, man, this guy's persistent.
I think I told you I was going to fly in, and
Yeah.
I don't think you believed it.
No, I
didn't.
didn't. No, I did not. No, 100%. And you showed up.
And at that time, you were just getting into paint protection film.
Yeah.
I think you just did your first full front or something. You just did your first car.
I believe so, yeah.
And I was telling you, man, that's like my main focus.
Yeah.
And then I actually showed up, and I remember the first thing I said that you told me when I first got here. You're like, man, I didn't think you were gonna come.
Yeah. when you walked up,
You
that's
said
for sure, yeah.
you thought I was messing with you or something.
Yeah.
Just for those people who are just now seeing Shine Detailing and Kelly for the first time, tell me about that time, because I really don't remember. It's been so many years. It's been about 3 years.
Yeah.
What was your main focus at that time? Because now we're gonna kind of connect it to where you're at now.
Yeah.
You are going through the definition of rapid growth. I mean, you had an amazing 2024. We'll talk about what's right next door here in a second. But I really want to build some context here. So in 2021, you were just getting into paint protection film. What did the business look like? What did it feel like? What services were you focusing on?
Yes, I mean, we have, our general background is in detailing, right? So when we started in detailing, it was always like a goal to build a shop and be bigger, right? So we started kind of going through these pathways, and I can just remember sitting here one day going like, man, correction and coatings are good, right? That's kind of where we started. I mean, I feel like we put the niche here in ceramic coatings and correction and actually that paint work. But I just felt like cars were coming back every 6 months and people were like, man, I got swirls on my car. And I was just trying to think bigger. And I just remember getting phone calls from you and then talking with George. At that point, we only had one other person helping us out, kind of like sub. And it just felt ideal for us to think in the direction of paint protection film and tint. It was kind of like, well, how can we make more money, right? And yeah, we can do volume and correction and coatings, and then we can also make residual off that with clients coming in for maintenance. But the picture was bigger. The picture was like, let's try to get a cleaner service, a service that's going to last a lot longer, a service that's going to bring higher end clientele to us, so we could build. I mean, that's essentially what it was.
Team of 3 here. How long had you had the shop?
So right now, this shop's been here for 6 years, so we're going on 6 years.
Going on 6.
We started with just me and George. We were just talking about the other day, just building this shop out, and there was nothing. And we'll put some photos up too of that, but it was nothing. And it's kind of, you walk in this place and you're like, I gotta afford paint. I gotta do.
You gotta give me some
I got
pictures.
lights. I gotta buy a cabinet, right?
pictures.
So every week or every 2 weeks, we were using my trailer. So my mobile detailing trailer was in the corner, and that's how we had water, because we couldn't even afford water tanks, right? So now we're a team of, like, any given time, there's like 6 to 8 people here on a
6
given
to 8
day,
people
within 3
consistently.
years, yeah.
I mean, you don't got no more space in the shop right now.
No, we're tapped.
The cars
tapped,
are lined
yeah.
up. It's all paint protection film. It's all. I think you have one. What is in the back? In the back again. What is that?
No, that was finished. Oh, the RV.
The RV, that huge RV.
Yeah.
You got paint protection film on the front.
Yeah, that's an
ceramic
evolution
coating.
too. Yeah, I mean, we just started paint protection film on wheels. I mean, anything we can get our hands on. Yeah, people have questions. We throw it out there, we try it out, see what it works, and we just run with it.
So when we first met, you were a team of 2 or 3, just getting into paint protection film, looking to scale up. You've been in the shop for about 3 years, but I know something that, I know what I don't know, and I don't know the real beginnings. I know you start off as a mobile detailer.
Yeah.
But as I was thinking and preparing for this interview, I was like, I need to really uncover that, because I don't know nearly enough as I want to know.
Yeah.
What made you decide to start off in the mobile detailing industry?
I think ultimately it was freedom, right? So, I mean, I have kind of a weird background when it comes to like the evolution of what I did. My whole family was in healthcare, so that's all I ever knew growing up.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so my whole family was in healthcare, and I just looked at my dad. I mean, of course, a lot of kids that are involved with their parents or whatever, they look at their parents to go, oh man, I got like raised in a house, like I got to play sports, went to a nice school, lived in a nice area, right? So you're like, I'm going to follow those footsteps. So ultimately, that was what I projected through high school. I was like, I'm going to graduate high school, I'm going to do the whole big college dream thing and go right across the street to Cal State Fullerton and start this whole thing.
You born and raised here in
Yeah,
Yoba
no, Fullerton.
In Fullerton.
Yeah, so
Where's
like,
Fullerton? How far is
it's probably like 15 miles that
15
way.
miles
Yeah,
north?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was, I just looked at my dad and I was like, man, why not envy him? Why not like put my footsteps in him? Then my cousins started going that direction. So I'm like, dude, it's a shoe in, right? Like all these people working for different organizations, I could just go to school and get a job.
Yeah.
So that's where my mindset was. But going back to when I was like 12 years old, I was scratching people's cars, like washing with Dawn soap.
No way. Yeah.
I'll get pictures of that too.
Are they
but,
still
like,
customers? Are they still?
No.
Do you still know them?
No. So my parents would be like, hey, you want to go to a church camp? Or my dad was always adamant about me earning half of what I would do. So whatever it was, like a baseball bat or shoes, it was always like, hey, you can go wash cars and do whatever, right? Yeah. So I had these neighbors that were like, yeah, you can wash our car. And I just remember doing it out there and going, oh, man, like I just would look at the street and be like, hey, there's $30 there. There's $30 there. There's like, man, I can make $200 in a week, right? And that was at like 13 or 14 years old. I just think numbers, right? That's how my whole vision has always been like, what can I grow? What can I provide? And obviously I didn't even know I was going to have kids at a young age or a wife at a young age. So I think that's just all what God put in me to put out in the universe, right? And to feel like I contributed.
And
so,
speaking of kids, you just had your third?
Fourth.
Your fourth?
Yeah.
Man.
So I got 2 boys and 2 girls, yeah.
And
one going to high school in 4 months.
One's going to high school in 4 months?
Yeah.
How old were you when you had your first?
21.
21,
Yeah,
and then,
36.
you're talking, that's pretty young, huh?
Yeah.
And then the newest baby girl.
She's 6 months old.
She's 6 months.
Six
Wow,
months
it's been
old.
6 months already? I feel like I just called you to congratulate you.
Yeah, so kind of press forward. I mean, I went to school, got my bachelor's and master's in business and healthcare. So the clerical side of healthcare administration. Worked side by side with my dad for over 5 years, which is a blessing, right? You got to do lunch with him, do all these things.
That's cool.
And then one day my dad got let go. And it was like, you're working at the same company, but then you look at somebody that put 30 years into a company, and you just walk in one day and your stuff's gone. So it was kind of an eye-opener for me, and I'm glad it happened that soon because I was still young, right? We hadn't even had my first son yet. And it just allowed me to open my perspective of how simple, right, life could be, how easy it can change, and then also building somebody else's destination, right? I mean, healthcare is so big that you're not really directly reflecting anybody necessarily, but you're also not building anything that you want to do. So I stuck in healthcare for probably about 5 more years, even after my dad got laid off. And then I started thinking like, okay, well, what can I do differently? Still stay in healthcare, right? Because obviously I don't know anybody really. They can just be like, okay, I'm over that job. Let me just go stagnant for 6 months, right? And then build something. Like that's very rare. So I was like, I'll just talk to my wife and then see if I can do like mobile detailing. Because I did mobile detailing throughout college. That's how I paid for college.
Wow, so you were already married at this time?
Yeah. So I had
good, man.
when I
That's
was
great.
going through college, my 4th year, I had my son, and then we were married my 3rd year in college, and then I just would kind of put myself through detailing and classes and just get my hands on whatever I could.
That's beautiful, man. So you had a rock when you're building this whole entire thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. My wife, she's like, one day she was like, we could sleep in the back of a car, and I was like, you're kidding. She's like, no. And then, because she's had a rough, upbringing too, so I just was like, all right, well, I don't know how to do it, right? I don't know how to do it. Like that's, how do you go from working 7 days a week to go to 5 days a week? And finally she was like, I think it was probably a stretch of 1.5 years where she's like, yeah, there's a lot of growth, right? Like you have a lot of growth, but you have 2 kids. Now press forward, now I have 2 boys, and they're all like playing sports. I'm missing games. I'm doing all these things. And she's like, you got to figure it out.
How important was she in your motivation and focus?
Oh, huge, dude. Huge.
That's a game changer.
Yeah. Told myself not to get emotional, dude, but
man, I'm right there next to you, bro.
Yeah, bro.
I'm right there next to you. My wife, I remember this is something I haven't talked about either, but I can relate on that. I didn't expect to kind of uncover that part of your journey there, but I remember we were young. I was 19, 20, and we were living in a 1-bedroom apartment on the third floor.
Yeah.
There was homeless people sleeping in the stairways. It smelled like piss.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was one of those places where, this is San Jose, California. I was born in Northern California, like you know that. And I remember that one night we went over, looked out the blinds. We heard this whoo, 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 whoo. Helicopter was shining a spotlight right in front of our apartment on these dudes, and there's like a dozen cops swarming all around. And that was one of the clearest memories. And I remember in that apartment, I had one of those real deep heart-to-heart talks with her. I'm like, babe, I feel like I'm just working and working and working and working. Is it really going to pay off? Is it really going to make it? Am I really going to make it? And at that time, I didn't even have a business yet. I was just, working. I had my real first big break in the home improvement industry. And I remember coming home. I just made my first 10 grand. I think I was 20 at that time. And I was just like, wow. It's like the world. I grew up with my parents having to decide, do I pay, electricity bill or the water bill?
Yeah.
I can't pay both. I got to pay one of them,
Yeah, which ones do first?
So 10 grand, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to cuss. Dang it. My team's going to get mad at me.
You got to edit that out, dude.
She wrote out on a whiteboard. I had this big whiteboard. I still have a picture to this day. She's going to kill me that I'm talking about this. But it's this massive whiteboard. And I'd always write down my goals, and I would want to look at something. She wrote down something beautiful to me that day that I made my first 10 grand, and it was writing this small.
Yeah.
She filled up every inch of that fucking whiteboard, and I walked up, started bawling.
Yeah.
Didn't even know. Walked into the closet. We had this one bedroom apartment. Put my stuff down. She knew I would go in the closet. She had it perfectly light up right there in the closet, and I read it. Just bawled.
Yeah.
I haven't cried like that since.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
It's incredible to have that support.
Yeah.
And I mean, she believed in you.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's like that's where the rubber met the road, and it's like you take all those skills that you learn, just from the years, and you're like, hey, first of all, I got to trust God's plan, and second of all, I can't fail the person that I gave oath to, right? Like that's a big thing, right? And your kids are looking at you going like, and I know my kids were young at the time, so like them looking up at dad going like, what's dad going to do is probably not formulated in their memory, but at least when you were present that you can make the leap of faith, because eventually they're going to go down that road and be like, hey, how am I supposed to do it, Dad? And you're like, well, let me take you back to like 2000 and something when we started. You know what I mean? Like you're able to relate to that.
Yeah.
That was the turning point. And then from there it was just, we went to a shop in Garden Grove that George had facilitated with a guy that he knew that did like Mercedes-Benz restorations. So then we got our hands on some cool like E63s, like some older cars, rare cars, some nicer cars. And then that guy was like, hey, dude, you guys are creating a lot of dust and debris. So we went back to my condo and did it there. And we're like kind of pushing things under the rug, like maybe it's not for us. And then
trying to figure it out.
Fast forward to this place 6 years ago, and this was like the hardest thing in the world to get into. Probably about 2018, right before COVID. So about 4 months before COVID.
Man,
So 4 months before COVID, we signed a lease on this place. And I joke around because everybody's like, oh man, this place is like huge, and like the area is so nice, but like there's literally a divide, like when you go 2 miles up the street where it's dead and no businesses thrive. Like anybody can tell you, like anything past like a couple of friends' places and their suites and stuff like that just dies, right? And then once I started hearing that, I'm like, God, man, we're gonna be another number, like we put all this money into this place and we're just gonna die, right?
Uh-huh.
And I can remember just walking out here and it was like no cars, no dance studios, no fitness places, no tire place, like it was just dead.
Was it a newer building?
No.
Did they just build that here? Or
they just had really, really bad management.
I see.
Come to find out, I was young and I was applying for this place, and these guys made me go through every single thing in the book. I mean, environmental permits, water distribution permits, paint correction, ventilation permits. I mean, I got the ringer for like 6 months, dude, and I almost gave up. Yeah, because I couldn't get in here, and I'm like, man, this city's horrible.
I came from Fullerton. Focused for 6 months on this.
Yeah, 6 months. We tried to talk to the old gentleman that used to run this place, and finally I was like, hey man, can I come walk it with you? Like, I just want to show you what we do. I'll bring my trailer. I'll show you how much water we use.
How big was the business at that point?
I mean, enough to pay me and George to live in apartments. Like $2,000 a week, $3,000 a week. Like
okay,
nothing. Like,
And you were, what, a year into the mobile detailing business? 2 years?
No, I've mobile detailed since I was started college. So I probably have like 6 or 7 years background in that.
Oh, okay.
Like
So
mobile
you
detailing.
knew what you were doing.
Oh, yeah.
You were ready to make that jump.
Yeah. I knew that this was the next evolution. You know, you always think like, oh, I could buy 10 or 15 vans, right? And go big that way. But it never was me to like want that control to be elsewhere, right? And be in 10 different cities with 3 different guys that didn't care about the work. I wanted everything just kind of.
That's a tough one. It is tough.
Fast forward to what we'll talk about later, but I was very micromanaged. Like I wanted everything to be under my control. I wanted everything to look right and be right and no stress.
Paint
and
perfection. You wanted paint
happy.
perfection.
Yeah, I mean, that's this vision of my life that like people were going to come through this door and just be like blown away. Like, oh my God, dude, you guys are the best in the world. And it was like, that went to crap really quick, right? Once you start scaling and figure things out, like people are upset, man, or you just can't control people and you can't control their emotions or what they're going through. So yeah, I mean, it just was one of those things where we had to grow. And then once we got in here, COVID hit. And then I can remember sitting once again in the living room going, my wife's like, we got to shut down. Like, you know, everybody during COVID, like,
California,
once you see through the BS, you're kind of like,
right.
You knew what was happening.
But there was
2
months.
Right?
There was 1 or 2 months.
Yeah,
where you
knew.
I was waking up every morning, looking at the news.
Yeah.
You know, oh my God, you can get it through your eyeballs. You know, it goes through the walls. You remember that? It goes through the walls. So the fact that you signed at least 4 months before that.
Yeah, so that hit, and we had put all this money into this place. I'm telling you, we painted the walls, we did the glass board, we did everything we could, right, before we moved in. Airlines, like all these things you can think of, like me and George were just funneling money into it. And I remember sitting here and then sitting in the living room, and I came to work the next day, and it was just me and George at the time, and I was like, hey, what are we going to do? And he's like, dude, we should probably not be open. You know, we probably shouldn't have any contact with people. And then our minds shifted. I'm like, hey, dude, like, he's an ASC certified tech. And I'm like, at some point, like, that's when the whole essential thing came in and businesses could stay open if they were legit and they were providing a service that people needed. So then we went into the whole bacteria cleaning and ozone treatment. I got my hands on some ozone treatments. Like, we did whatever we could for the first year to figure it out.
Adapted.
Yeah.
Wartime leader.
We bought like 10 ozone treatments at the time, and we were putting cords out of here into the parking lot. People were dropping their keys off in a baggie. We were doing lockbox drop-offs and pickups. Yeah, we had to. I'm like, we didn't have anybody else coming here, right?
A lot of people don't have that, though. I mean, that's like a make it or break it, figure it the fuck out moment.
Had to, dude. I mean, there's no other option, right? Like, at that point, you have all your money in this place, and you're like, okay, do I just walk away, move, and call bankruptcy, which would be the easy way out? But then you start looking at how your dad raised you, and you're like, dude, there's no way. I can't.
That adaptability. The adaptability that you had there really separates the pros from the amateurs, man.
Yeah. So, you know, with George and myself, we just kind of we stuck it out. And then about 3 months into it, the city showed up. And then I can remember them being outside. They said, hey, anybody that was open had to have the doors locked. Nobody inside. I unfortunately had a whole team working inside, and then I had the door open, and then in comes the mayor. And she's like, hey, is the owner here? And
the mayor?
Like of our city with the health officials and all these people. And I'm like, oh God, like this is it. Like it's God's plan, like them. Like we're gonna get written up, right? They had their badges on, everything. I'm like, this is, and I just walked outside. I was like, can you give me a minute? And I walked out and told George, I said, hey dude, you know, this is what's going on. And he told everybody to leave, and they left in their cars, like apocalyptic, right? Like just weird things went on. And
is this when the sky was red and orange? You know, with all the fires, you remember that? There was curfew, you couldn't go out, you had to wear a mask everywhere. The skies in California were orange.
And then I just remember them walking in, and I was just fearful. I was like, man, this is the end of it, right? Like all the stuff was done, and I was cool with it. I feel like we made our peace, we did what we could, and she walked in, and she's like, instantly comes from this like demeanor of like, I'm going to shut you down, to a wide-eyed, like open perspective. And she's like, what can we do to help? And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean, what can you do to help? And she's like, yeah, we're here to, like, we heard that like you're servicing the community. And so there's a video that's on our social media way back that the city came in and shot a full video and highlighted us as couple, I think it was like 10 or 15 other locations that stayed open, that followed procedure, followed proper policy, all these things. So like it was a blessing, dude. And then fast forward, this is where we got into paint protection film. Me and George are sitting here again at the desk, like trying to like round table figure things out. Once we found out the city was on our side and we're going to get shut down, all these different things. And 2 weeks after that, I think it's like August as well, in 2021, we started talking about paint protection film. And I kid you not, dude, I walked outside to get the mail one day, and there was an envelope from the city. It's like, gosh, man, like what the heck? I've never gotten like, I thought it was maybe my permit, operation conditions or whatever it was. I opened it up as a $15,000 check from the city. 15 grand, bro. No conditions. No conditions.
Why'd they
asked.
send you that 15 grand?
So all the cities got funding back when COVID was going on, right? So they got funding. So instead of keeping that money as Yorba Linda, they pushed it back into the businesses so they wouldn't go under.
That's incredible.
So
man.
no joke, dude. I like opened that envelope and I sat at my desk and George was in the office and I like broke down. I was like, there's no way. So I called the number on the bottom and she's like, yeah, that's your check. Go ahead and cash it. And I'm like, the freak? There's no way.
You didn't believe it till you
no,
seen
I
it
was
in
like,
your
there's
bank
no
account,
way,
right?
dude. Yeah, I was, why would somebody just give out $15,000, dude? So then, like, I stopped for like 2 days. I didn't say anything. And then George is like, dude, what's going on with you, bro? Like, you're so happy and stuff. I'm like, I gotta tell you something, dude. And so I told him, and he's like, dude, there's no way. Like him, same thing. Like, there's no way, dude. And I was like, no, bro, it's in our bank account, dude. Like, it's 15 grand. Like, it's there. And he's
I mean,
like,
in California, it was crazy at that time.
Yeah.
They were shutting people down left and
It's like a war
right.
zone,
They were
dude.
giving
Yeah.
notices everywhere.
Yeah,
That's
so
incredible.
I showed him the bank statement, and he's like, dude, what are we gonna do? I was like, I could just remember both of us almost simultaneously saying, dude, let's go to film. Let's do film. And I remember that night we booked 3 flights for me, Phil at the time, Phil was with us, and then George to go to Expel. And then that was the 15 grand. We just dumped it there. And I was like, wow, we went to Expel, right? We did all these
Right.
things and we're there. George actually, unfortunately, had his baby the day we left. So he couldn't go.
No.
So then you have that prerogative. We're like, man, I was sharing all these cool things with him. And then now I got like this installer that I don't even know. We're going to have to share a hotel room together. Like there's a lot of like camaraderie and stuff in the shop with guys that we've just built. And I feel like that's where the value comes with our company is that everybody here shares something. And that is reflective in the work too. Like they know when I say, hey, like we got to fix this or do this, it comes from a place of genuinity. Like they want to see better work. We're going
you have
there.
a great culture.
Yeah,
like
like
that's great.
I remember going there and going like, wow. And then you sit in that Expel conference room, this big old deal with all these hoods and stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to be the best of this. Like that's the only, I don't have an option, right?
Best possible installer.
Fast forward 5 days later and I failed my test installing film. So I thought there's all these reality checks, right? And then Phil got a 98. And I just remember that being like the icebreaker for us. And he's like, hey, dude, like maybe you should like have film installers, right? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm going to do film.
You're going to do it yourself.
I'm going to do film,
You're
dude.
going to be hands-on.
Yeah, I'm going to be hands-on. I'm going to make it
perfect.
perfect. Like that's my vision. That's where I'm going to come from. So for 2
The
years.
pride was shown there.
Yeah,
Got to
so-
make sure it's great.
Yeah. So then we come home. We kind of do this thing. PPF kind of gets put aside because I'm like, man, we got to buy a roll at $1,500. We got to buy a plotter, right?
All this money.
So we're 6 months into it, and then the second wave of COVID happens, right? Where they got even more strict and more shutdowns, and then they got even more serious. I can't make this up, bro, but 2 weeks after that second shutdown, I got another $15,000 check for a second round. I swear to God, bro. Everything that has orchestrated here has been God's blessing. $15,000. We bought a plotter.
But you're also
this is
making
like
the right moves.
Yeah,
Here's
like,
the thing.
I
people
didn't want to
get-
use it.
People get handed opportunities every single day, but they make
Yeah.
the stupidest decisions.
And
they,
I feel
they
like-
fumble the football. They don't keep.
Yeah.
They don't hold it. They don't make the right plays. They don't keep going. But if I can, I want to unpack something a little bit.
Yeah.
Why was the film side so interesting to you? Why did you want to move away from detailing? Why did you want to move into the film side? Because there's many people that are going to be watching this that are thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I think
Today, I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah, I think ultimately it was. I just felt it on my heart. For one, I felt like I have always listened to my intuition, and my intuition was telling me that I was being complacent. Like I already knew I had established the correction and coding side of stuff. I mean, we were the rep for G-Tech. I'm still technically the West Coast rep. I still represent. I still support. But I was a rep for coatings in Southern California before, like even with Ryan and stuff. Ryan and I feel like in that realm were correction and coatings, right? Ryan was always more PFS and protective film solutions and paint protection film, but I felt like we had gotten that market where it was correction coatings because we were paint specialists. So people were coming to us with tattered paint and we're like, hey dude, I just want to breathe life into it, right?
There you go.
And I was like, oh, that's cool, right? But first of all, it's labor intensive. There's not that much margin in it when you really look at it. And second of all, cars were coming back like in 6 months and they were beat up. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? So film was kind of like, that's the only option, right? Like even when I have conversations with people, I know that people are on budgets. Everybody has a strict budget and a timeline, but ultimately, if you want to protect your car, that's what you're getting. Like, and if you don't want to, then here's option 2, but don't come back to me in 6 months when your car doesn't look what you painted the picture to. You're going to lose money, right? So like, it just was an evolution of like how I've always thought in my business how I could bring value to people. Like,
right.
Not necessarily myself. I feel like that's where a lot of businesses fail when they look internally. Like, how can I be rich? How can I be wealthy? How can I get my guys a Lambo or a Porsche, right? Which now my thinking is there, right? Because we've established this. So now I'm trying to spread the wealth and get them what they need to survive here too.
Got to build the team. Got to look after the team. Build your
but like I always felt like we needed to build a brand and a value so that when people came here, they knew they were safe. Like they knew that they could have what they purchased stayed here,
right,
and that they could come to me at any time and fix it.
I mean, speaking of brand, you built an amazing brand, man.
Yeah.
Especially over the past 12 months, the moves that you've made for your social media, your YouTube channel, it's been phenomenal, and it paid off tremendously last year.
Yeah, it definitely was. We're about 100% growth on the year.
Doubled.
Yeah,
that's
doubled. Yeah, so we doubled.
Doubled up.
And I really didn't think about it. And some of the media guys are here, like a good buddy, my good buddy Tom that comes in, and every day he'd come in and be like, hey, how you doing, dude? And I'm like, I think we're doing good, Like, he's like, you got to look at your numbers, man. And same thing with you. You'd have these conversations. And I was like so mentally trapped of like, I had to be on every car that I felt like there was like 2 weeks where in multiple conversations with friends, I was like, dude, I am not in the right headspace. Mm-hmm. And I think you even called me one day and you're like, hey, dude, like, I love you. Like, we've been together for 3 years, but like, I think you need to like make some changes, dude. I remember that phone call you made to me. And you were like, hey,
man.
Like you're not.
It was after a meeting.
Yeah, you're like, hey, you're not in the right headspace. Like, I don't want to be negative, but here's a book. I remember you giving me a book to read, and you're like, hey, dude, like all great minds like read books, and like you
never stop learning.
You got to get out. You got to get out of the headspace, dude. And I remember getting off the phone, and I'm like, dude, no, screw you, Ray. Like, no, like I'm gonna do me, and that's what I do, and that's what's got me here. And then everything after that point was like, it just was downhill. Like, it was downhill. 6 months was just a constant, like, coming in here, closing myself off in the room. What you think you're doing right, ultimately is what you're doing wrong. And I think as a business owner, the minute you can take an out-of-body experience and sit like in this chair and put yourself in that chair, and be like, what is Ray thinking, or what are my clients thinking, or what are my guys thinking? I think that's where the mental shift happened for us. And for myself personally, and just like even my kids, my wife, I joke around, but we don't work weekends, dude. I don't believe that here. My guys, if they want to make overtime, they're more than welcome to work weekends. But like, there's a quality of life that has to happen, and there's kids that are looking at you and a wife that are looking at you, and that's where the evolution happened for us. Where it's like, we have to build something that's sustainable here, Monday through Friday, and serve, and that's it. And then make people happy. That's it.
I think it's really easy to lose track of that. You know, it's a difference between a lifestyle, running your business, and then having some kind of balance. There's never really truly balance being a business owner, but you can give yourself the best possible odds of having some kind of sanity. Because if, the moment that you were in, when you were just going all in, you're probably staying here, 12, 14 hours a day?
Yeah, I think me and George slept here like before SEMA, like, just stuff where it's growth, right? We talked about this earlier before we started this. Like, you want to grow. So you're like, dude, whatever I can do, I'm going to grow.
There's seasons you go through. There's a time where you have to work those 12, 14, 16-hour days.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, then you don't build that skill, that knowledge, that confidence in yourself that you can do it, you can handle it, but you don't stay there. Yeah. If you're staying there for years and years and years, that's where people start going out of business, because they don't know how to step back and they don't know how to let go of the vine. Man, you've just been unstoppable over the past, as long as I've known you. I think that was one of the biggest things that I've been able to see. You just let go of that vine, man. Yeah. When it clicked for you, it was a game changer. When did that click for you, and what was the mental shift that allowed you to step back, stop trying to go for 100% perfection? Like, let's talk about that a little bit.
I think, letting that portion of it, like, I don't know when the exact time frame was, but I can just remember coming in here and I'd come here like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd tape things
crazy.
up and like trim things, and then I'd miss dropping my kids off at school. My wife was mad. I was like, dude, what? Like, I cannot be the only person that can physically do this. Like, in my head, I was like, sat in my car. I'm like, there's got to be somebody else that can do this. Like, I have to open my brain like a zipper, right? And then put it on the table and be like, here's everything that I know. Can you guys please try to execute it? And I think it was just it was a conglomeration of stuff, like emotional stress, marital stuff, kid stuff, right? And then your hands are up. You're like, dude, I can't take this. Like,
Right.
I have to grow or go, pretty much. Like, I have to either go, I either have to move this business and grow with it, or I have to leave it. Because it was just, you grow to a point when it's like the level of destruction, right? Like, you just internally, you start worrying about things that you shouldn't even worry about. Stuff that we see, nobody else sees, right? Granted, we have a really good QC process here, and I feel like we're one of the best shops in Orange County. I don't toot my horn on that, but I know, I'm confident that like now I have the team built to the point where they know what I look for. If they miss it, like you were in the shop earlier, I just put a piece of tape on something. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm not fixing that. You fix it.
100%. You
It's
can't do other
It's not my
people's
job.
jobs.
I saw it. I'm not going to be negligent
Can't do
and
other
not,
people's jobs.
and not bring it up to you and cause that to be a problem and a comeback. But that's oversight. So let's fix it. Here's a piece of bright green tape, right? And we just tape things here, and that's it.
When you took that step back to reflect on what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing, what was that one domino that really pushed everything over so that you would kind of, again, let go and let someone else take the reins of installation and not look over their shoulder, not micromanage and focus on paint perfection?
You know, I think when we started to get busier with film, it makes you like forcefully think outside the box, like sub work and you know, getting guys on commission and trying to figure out realms, right? Because you go through the seasons where you're super busy, but you're like, hey, I'm not busy enough to hire somebody, so I got to figure out like what I'm going to do, right? I think the domino really was when I sat down with George, and obviously we have a tight structure and a tight unit now, better than we ever have. That he was like, hey, dude, like I got to make more money, right? I've got plans. You got plans. You have kids. You got one going to high school. My kids are in private school, so obviously that's an expense. So I think a multitude of things, but I think financially it was like, hey, our wives and our kids and our families and my guys' families all need to grow.
Right.
And it was either, I think I called you probably 8 weeks ago or something, and I was like, dude, if I could send you a picture of the shop, you would probably like lose your marbles. I mean, there was fenders in this, right where we were sitting, there was probably 8 door panels, there were bolts all over the place. Tom came in here one day and he's like, dude, you got to get a bigger space. And I was like, yeah, maybe. Like, let me see if it grows. Like, let me see if we have consistency, right? Once again, complacency. You're like, dude, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm good, right? But nobody else is good. So everybody that you built this for is not good.
Right.
You're good. You're in a place of happiness, but everybody else is not good. Mm-hmm. And I think
walking put your people first, man.
Yeah, and walking out.
I see you doing that.
Yeah, and walking out and seeing people like the installers frustrated, guys not operating at their peak, like lunch breaks going from 30 to an hour. Like, you just start to be like, what's going on, you know? And I think ultimately it was just coming in here one day and I just said, hey, like, I either have to, like you talked about earlier, is being a visionary. Like, I have to paint the picture. And then if I have a good enough team and the team that I feel like I've trained and supported and taught me things, right? Like, it'll grow. And like 8 weeks, dude, like it's been a complete mind shift. Like, we're moving over to another space, blessed a couple doors down, which was a whole nother thing that we weren't even ready for. And it just,
I'm going to push back on that. I feel like the opportunity presented itself and you were absolutely ready for it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think there's a healthy dose of paranoia that you have and you have to have as an entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, I'll see what happens. But as soon as the opportunity opened up, you were right on it, man.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be, it's incredible. We were just over there. I think this is the time where my team should put some pictures in of that new space. Tell them about the square footage a little bit more.
Yeah, so right now we're at about 1,900 square feet, give or take. We have a small office. Obviously, you guys see it in here. It's small. We use this for everything. So it's our desk, our meeting room, our sales. I mean, everything. So it's small, but it was good to a certain point, and now it's like we hit a point in our business where we have to be exposed to more. And it just was to the point where we had almost 8 cars in here at one point. I had a GTR for a good buddy of mine. Thank God it was a good friend. Right? Fully disassembled outside. We were swapping probably $30,000 in carbon. I'm like, what are we doing? Like it was just this week where I was like, oh my God, I sat in here and I called my wife. I told you earlier, and I felt like I was going to blow up. Like,
because you were so
felt
busy,
like I had a
you're
fever.
so overwhelmed.
I felt like everybody wanted my attention. I felt like my kids were everywhere. And I was like, dude, I am going to lose it. I think that was like, but the breaking point truly for me was like, I called my wife and she's like, dude, what's going on?
And this was just last year.
This is literally November, end of November, the beginning of December. And I remember calling all my buddies, like Tom, everybody that I've been close to that's helped build this. And I was like, dude, I'm going to lose my marbles. Like, I hate everybody here. Like, your mind just goes crazy, bro. The mind controls everything, right?
It
like,
does,
and
100%.
it just, it could flip like in an instant. And I remember calling my wife, and I stood outside the shop, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, oh my God, anybody else would be blessed. Like, they'd be like, dude, you're gonna make probably $40,000, $50,000 this week, right? Like, you should be happy. Everybody's happy, but nobody wasn't happy. I'm like, why is nobody happy? I'm like, this is the best week ever, right? And then it was a snowball, dude. Like, we dented a car. And I will tell you, first thing, as a business owner, we have mistakes. I talked about it yesterday on my IG, but we fix everything we do.
Right.
And we had a dent, we had a light fall, we had a car we were removing old PPF, of course, paint pulled. I'm like, anything you can think happened. And I was like,
week.
dude, what in the fizzle? Like,
growth exposes your biggest
weaknesses. So then I walked outside, I called my wife, and she knows I only call her. Like, if something's wrong or I'm having a problem.
Yeah.
And it's probably been like in the last 5 years, maybe twice. I can handle a lot. Like, I internalize a lot. I don't call a lot of people. And I walked outside and she's like, is there a problem? Like, right out the gate, right when I called her. And I was like, there is a problem. There is a problem. And I got emotional.
Making too much money.
Yeah, and it's
too
like,
busy.
Yeah, and she's like, but honey, you said it's the best of your week. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. Like, I want to put a for sale sign on it and like just put it up on the road and say first offer. Like, that's how bad it was. In my height, I was mentally just taxed.
It's a lot of pressure, man. It's a lot
I
of
walked
stress.
outside and I was on the phone with her and I looked to the right and I was like, she's like, you still there? And I remember staring at 2 doors down and there's these guys just clearing a warehouse out. And I was like, that's kind of weird, I'm like,
no way.
So I always dreamed about having one of these spaces where we could just keep my wall that you guys know is like our insignia, right? Unfortunately, it's got to go. We'll build.
You're gonna do it
build
again.
detailing back better again. I promise. We'll do something over there, but it's gonna be different.
He has his logo on a wall for those who haven't seen it.
And
all
what's
over.
crazy is it's like almost 2.5 weeks of somebody hand painting that logo. And,
It's great. I love that. I'm gonna film a video before I leave.
Yeah, and it's all hand painted. It's all hand done. It was like kind of our turning point to like where we were going. And fortunately, that's got to go. New doors are gonna open. It's gonna be good. But I remember just looking over at that space, going, "Oh, maybe I can just rent that space." In my head, I was like, "Just go rent that space." I didn't know what it looked like. It has the same size door. It's the only unit in this strip that's bigger than us. Like, so they're all like 1,200 to 1,800 all the way down. And then there's a couple like sporadic, weird tennis ball shaped places, like basketball shaped places that are on corner units.
Okay.
And I just remember walking over there and opening the door. Like, the guy had the bay door open. I kind of like peeked my head in. And I was like, this is it. Like, I don't know. Something just told me, like, this is it. This is where we're going to be. And that comes with this whole other story of stuff. But I just remember looking at this and I was like, I had a vision. Like, I just had a vision, like, we're going to gut this whole thing, right? And I didn't know how I was going to do it. Financially, I was like, there's no way. Like, we're tapped, right? We're having good months.
As you said, there's several offices in the back end of that.
There was like 15 offices partialed. And then they had like a sub wall and an AC unit. Like, anybody that walked over there before, back, dude, I don't know what you're seeing, dude.
We're in a business park right now, so
correct.
that's
light
what,
industrial.
2 buildings down, or two, not buildings,
one
but 2
complete,
spaces down.
One space down.
One space down.
So
Wow.
we're in 108 and it's 110. And
so you're in the back of your shop, the current shop we're in right now. You're having your best financial, busiest week ever.
Yeah.
And then there's just this massive domino effect.
Yeah.
You're calling the wife. It's just not. It's not what you
Just-
thought it was
it
going to
just-
be.
it was
You're at
everything
the
that
top of the mountain. You're at the
Yeah.
top of the Kelly Mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember actually, you know what's funny you say that? I remember having this conversation with you and you're like, hey dude, you're climbing the mountain, right? I remember having this distinct conversation with you. And it's weird how these interviews unfold things, but you're like, hey dude, like, you're at the bottom, bro. It's like very treacherous and hard. And then you get to a point where everybody gets to, right? And then it's open and like there's picnic tables and like the hike is done, right? Like
the valley.
yeah, like you're good. Like you could camp there and stay there. Like you're good, right? And then there's like the other 5%, which like the 20, 30-year-old hikers have gone up. Like that's where we were going, right? And I felt like I ran out of steam. I felt like I was like trying to get up the next stone, and I was like slipping, and I just kept falling backwards.
You expanded the vision though.
Yeah, and it was crazy. It really did, dude. Like I came back in here and I said, hey, I know I can talk big. I always talk big. And that's the problem. I feel like a lot of business owners like paint pictures and they're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
The grandiose vision.
Correct. And then your guys look at you and you're like, there's no way. This guy's not like, and I remember talking to one of our installers, and I hate to even say this on an interview because I'm not like a big guy to talk this way, but he's like, hey, dude, you have no balls. Mm-hmm. I remember my installer saying, you have no balls, bro.
That's a great advice.
I was like,
there. You need people like that.
Like, bro, I got balls. Man, you know, like, what are you talking about, dude? I got big balls, bro. You know. And I remember calling like Tom, and he's like, hey, bro, like, you know, like people are there for a reason, and I truly feel like our installer's there for a reason, and he's always been there for a reason, and I feel like God put him there for a reason.
I love that, man.
But I remember talking to him, and he's like, hey, dude, and he was more pumped than anybody, and he's like. He has like no skin in the game, just PPF, right? Like he's like,
because he knows what you're capable of.
And he's like, dude, you got it, bro. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, there's no way, right?
Damn, there's no going back now.
So for 2 weeks, I talked about this, and then George was like, hey, dude, like just letting you know, like the guys like want to know when this is gonna happen. And I was like, and then we had like a slower week, not really a slow week. And I remember you telling me like, dude, bro, you can't look at the slow weeks. Like you got to look at the bigger thing. Like your numbers still good.
Year over year, month over month.
Yeah, you're okay, right? And I was like, no. And George was like, bro, if you don't make a move, you're going to lose your team. And I remember, yeah, okay. Like, no way. I'm fine, dude. I built this. Same vision. You're going back. You're reverting, right? And I caught myself. And I was like, dude, no, there's no way. Called my landlord and I said, hey, how can we make this happen? And I was honest. I tell everybody, dude, you must be a detailer. You must have like a ton of money in the savings. You know, I have nice cars. Don't get me wrong. I do have nice cars. That's like my crutch. Mm-hmm. I think that's just why we're in this industry.
Don't you got a big ass truck too?
I have a big Suburban and a Bronco. Yeah.
Is that what it was? I remember you had some big ass truck.
But I was like, I told the landlord, I said straight up, I said I'm probably admitting some things that I don't want to, but I have no money, but I want that space. And she's like, oh, there's a problem there. Like, because you have to come up with security deposit and then build out and all that stuff. I said, hey, I'll take it right away. Like, whatever you need from me, I'll be out of the space tomorrow night. And she's like, the whole space. And I was like, yeah, I could do it. Like, don't challenge me. I'll get out of the space as fast as possible. Yeah. And she's like, well, let me talk to Bob and we'll see. And then she came back to me the next day. She's like, he's okay with you moving there. Like, let's start talks. And I'm like, all right. Like, I got the yes, right? Like, that's all I needed. I needed a vision. And I walked in there and I was like, I'm going to put a list down. And if it's God ordained and it's meant to be, I'm going to put a list down and it'll be fully executed with no financial responsibility. That's my vision. My vision was, yes, I tell George, I said, I'm going to write all these things down. I have a text I can show you. Lists, line by line by line by line. So I was like, dude, if we're going to move from there to here, we're going to go like within 2 days. Like I will make the fastest transition ever. Like I 100% already have, nobody's going to have downtime. That's how well I planned it. And I wrote a whole list down and I sent it to George. He's like, looks good to me, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I was like, well, I mean, what's worse going to happen? Say no? I sent it over to her. Within 25 minutes, I had a reply over. She's like, I'll send it to Bob. Bob calls me the next day. He's like, hey, when do you want to start construction?
No shit.
Yeah, and I remember looking at the freaking email, and I'm like, oh, my God. Like, part of you wants to go.
You made it happen.
But a part of you wants to go, like, is everything covered? You know? But the part of you is like, okay, there's a lot of gray area to do. Let's just roll with it. Because if you agree to it and it's on an email, right? Like, we know how business works.
We
like,
don't want no.
Hey, don't back out, dude, or else I'm not signing out, dude.
Yeah, misunderstanding.
And next thing, the next day, the very next day, the whole place is being gutted. And I'm like, I didn't even sign a lease. This is all verbal. And I'm like, dude, these people.
Well, you've been a great tenant for 6 years as well. You built that relationship.
Yeah, and then I'm starting to see like what the last 8 years of my life has been. Like people really looked at me from the outside in, and it was like a confidence booster for me because this lady looked at me and she's like, no holds bar. Yeah, sure, I'll build a TI and a denim for like 80 grand, no problem. Shit. So she sends me over the addendum and it's like $80,000 build out. And I'm like, is that my responsibility? She's like, no, just can you do a 5-year lease? And then that's when the vision even expanded more where I'm like, 5 years, like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, fuck, dang, dude, committed for 5 years in another space, dude. That'll be a total of 11 here. And it just was to the point where it did. I mean, we'll show you videos and photos. They gutted the whole place for me. They're swapping our lights out. They're letting us build everything out. They're letting us paint it the right color. So many things that you build. Yeah, so many things that you build that you're like, man, I shouldn't have put that tint wall up there. I should have had it straight ahead. It would have made me more effective, right?
Oh, so now you get to do that.
Correct.
Now you get to
So
make those
instead of
efficiencies.
going all in and saying, I want it my way, I came to my guys and I said, hey, what color walls? And what color lights? Like, what color floors? Do you want concrete? Do you want polished floors? Do you want epoxy? And I gave it all to my team. And I
Right.
said, hey, build it the way you guys want it. And George was like, dude, you sure? And I was like, yeah, bro, these are the boots on the ground, bro. Like, this is who's going to build the business farther and who's going to grow with it. So, like, why would I not want to build it around them?
People first.
Yeah.
Got to put your people first.
It was crazy. It was like a fire, dude. Like, everybody's like, oh, we should get this compressor. I
See, I mean,
started
when you're-
getting links
Yeah.
for stuff where I'm like, Jesus, dude. Like, all I had to say is, like, you guys could build it. And, like, you know.
They
Then
see the vision, man.
Then I start
They're
getting stuff. I'm
excited.
like, gosh, dang, man. Like, in a little bit, you know, let's get past the first stage. But it was cool, man. It was like it lit a fire underneath everybody, and everybody just found a new joy. You know, I think that's what it was. It was always cool here. I've always been big on not being a corporate facility. I just don't believe in that. I've never wanted to be that way. That's kind of what pushed me out of healthcare. And it was almost like the reins just let loose. And like you said, like the vine, I was like, chopped it. And I said, hey, dude, I'm going to build the front of this, which is really, really important. And you guys can take the backside.
I mean, it definitely has allowed you just to focus on the sales, the marketing, the brand building. I mean, you guys need that space.
Yeah.
As soon as you're in there, and I didn't, you know, we were talking before this, and I was like, save it. I was trying
Yeah.
I cut you. I remember I cut you off.
Yeah.
I was like, no, we're going to talk about that on camera, unscripted, you know. I did not expect you to have to find that deal and make that deal happen next door. That's incredible,
Yeah, it's weird,
man.
bro. It's weird. To this day, I mean, I give all glory to God, man. Like, he moves and he does what he needs to do when he wants. And from our kids, from our wives, from our families, from our business, like the minute you think you're good, he's like, nah, push something else there, you know? And
Open up another door.
yeah, I mean, people talk about, oh, you shouldn't talk about your faith in your business. I mean, I openly talk about it constantly because dude, there's no way I can physically make that happen. Even the people, I said it to my buddy who's a lawyer, and I wanted him to look over the lease because I still was hesitant. I was like, can you please look this lease over and let me know? And he's like, dude, it all checks out, man. I'm
That's
like,
incredible.
what?
There you go.
A lawyer can find anything, right? And he's like, no, you're good, dude. Everything's there.
When do you feel it's going to be ready to be operational?
I mean, I'd probably say, like, realistically, probably she wants to start, like, they're big on, like, monthlies, so probably March. I was hoping for February, but I just kept tossing things at them, and they just keep taking them. So, I mean, a lot of it has to do with just minor adjustments, like electricity, panels, stuff like that. I mean, I would hope maybe February 1st to get in there, but I feel like I kind of want to wait till March and then move the office over and build some things out a little bit better. We're in direct contact with Expel, so we are, once again, crazy, man. Like, Expel's offered us the OEM position for Tesla, so Tesla
That's
just
exciting.
opened up 10 miles down the road, the biggest location pretty much in Orange County. So, like, we're getting leads from them for tint. Like, it's going to fill up fast. I think faster than I think it is. But I think
So they just opened up a Tesla facility?
They did about 10 miles, yeah, down.
No
down
kidding,
north,
no
yeah.
shit.
Yeah, it used to be an old movie theater that I went to as a kid, and they blew the whole thing out, and it's a full service center with deliveries, yeah.
Are you getting a lot of Cybertrucks still?
Do you know what's funny is we don't get a lot of Cybertrucks, dude, but I've noticed, obviously, of course, with the OEM dealership, we're getting a lot of Teslas. But yeah, we don't, it's weird. Like, even installers that come in here, you know, sometimes we'll get overflow, we'll use a sub worker, and they're like, man, you guys got a lot of lifted trucks, you know, and I think that's just Southern California. Lifted trucks, Mercedes, Escalades. We get a lot of Escalades. So all those things take up space. So if we could put 10 Teslas in here, right? But you could only put like 3 lifted trucks.
Right.
So that's where it became the point where we had to get it physically, get a bigger location.
Let's talk about growth a little bit more in terms of revenue, because I know paint protection film is the #1 revenue generator for you. That has blown up over the past 3 years. Great focus, great investment in your time, effort, energy, resources there. What else was going so well in 2024 for you to the point where you doubled top line revenue?
I think once again, it comes to a point where you shift your focus and what you're thinking of. Like, I really started thinking of margins versus like how big of a job I could get in here. And I think that's what most business owners get trapped in. Like, it's really like we talked about earlier, like when you got your first construction check, like you're like, 10 grand, you like kind of beat your chest, you know?
Yeah.
But then again, I could put 4 Teslas on in one day and make the same amount of money.
Right.
Baseline revenue. So it's like, that was a huge shift for me, realizing that these big, huge conglomerate projects that require like 10 people on it, all these parts being delivered, I was only making like 2 grand. right? And I was
Yeah.
like, that's weird, man. Like, I don't like that. I don't like the way that looks. And I swear when I shifted my focus from making bigger projects and pleasing everybody, because everybody has I feel like every car owner, I feel like I want to write a book on this one day, but every car owner has a different way of thinking. Like Teslas think differently. BMWs think differently.
Car culture,
Porsche,
man. Yeah.
I swear, Porsche owners are the most intelligent people I know, hands down. They know their cars, they know the era, they know what they want, they know the look, they know the tint, they know the product, and it's like, if you're not educated, your BS is like on a table. Like it says, literally lit up, you're full of BS. And I always would call Porsche owners, I'm like, dude, man, these guys are whack, dude. Like, I can't deal with them. And then I realized, like, dude, you don't know what you know. Like, you don't know the cars, you don't know what you're doing, and I just educated myself. I was like, man, I'm going to start looking into every Porsche. I'm going to know the motors. I'm going to know the transmissions. I'm going to know the tracks around Southern California, right? Like, I want to educate myself on everything. And then it became to the point where now we're getting more Porsches because you can actually have a conversation with somebody and they trust you. You're not just selling them paint protection film. You know, like,
You're not just
you know the reason why they bought
actually,
the car. You know the reason why they bought the same car that's looked the same for 20 plus years for 200 grand when it used to cost 40. Like, they're just so invested in that company. Like, Porsche's huge, right? So I feel like every car owner has a style and a unique personality, and if you can tap into that, that's where I feel like the growth has really happened. Like, Tesla owners just want protection, dude. You ain't making $2,400 off a full front. You ain't gonna do it. And truly, there's no reason to. They take 5 to 6 hours to do. So, like, rather than gouge somebody, take it to somebody else, like, that is gonna pay for the art form, right? Is gonna pay for my top tier installer, because we have installers here. If you call me and you have a Tesla, you're getting a Tesla's trained installer. Like, I just firmly believe in one person that's really good at Teslas doing a Tesla. And then a guy that firmly knows how to wrap Porsches. Porsches are easy, but they're not. A lot of intricate parts. The headlights are hard to do. The mirrors are very bulbous. The hips can be hard. Like, so there's a trained guy on that. So I started looking differently in the fact of, like, what can make me the most money, right? Like, baseline. But I don't have to charge you $8,000, right? Because I've strategized in my head. I know how much film takes. I think that's a big part of why people fail, because they think one car takes a roll, but a Model X takes 35 feet, dude. A Chevy 2500 HD takes 81 feet of film.
You have it dialed in. You got to
yeah,
the science.
like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's like, as an owner, you have to be able to think that way, because the first call, right? You blind called me, dude. You blind called me like a year ago. Remember that?
My team did.
Dude,
My team
called
did.
me, and I was like, dude, I didn't even know she was so fluid in her mannerisms.
We practiced that. I trained that.
I was like, dude, you literally crushed my soul, bro. And I was like, but you exposed some stuff in me where it was like, you know, like, dude, you got to be on your A game, man, and you can't let people see through you, because you got 5 minutes to make a presence. I firmly believe, dude, you got 1 minute. You got 1 minute from the time you say, hey, this is Kelly Johnson with Shine Detailing. And if you hear like Too Short in the background with like guys talking and cussing, slipping, or whatever the case may be.
Are you trying to rush them off the phone? It sounds
done,
like
dude.
you're in a hurry. You don't welcome the stupid questions.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to be the professionals. They're supposed to be uneducated. That's the way customers are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I forgot about that. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So like after that moment, a couple things, and then now with Tesla, like we have to be on point with Tesla and Expel. Like, they have a strict regulation and contracts that we have to follow. That's just part of their deal. And you have to know numbers. If you don't know numbers, they secret call too, and it's 2 strikes and you're out. So if you slip on price points or whatever the case may be, like, you're done, dude. You know?
Yeah, and that's interesting, because you've definitely given a lot of insights into your sales process, especially over the past 12 months. What else do you feel has helped grow so much in such a short period of time?
I think confidence. Like, I think confidence would be the other thing that would be the key point, because like I used to be I wasn't even confident, you know what I mean? Like, I remember you coming in here and shooting videos with me, and it was very scripted, and I just remember being like, dude, I don't like that.
The content you're making now,
it's like, dude, it's real, man. Like, if I slip, my zipper's down, dude, I don't even care anymore, man. Like, honestly, I joke around.
Keep it in, it gets more comments,
bro. Yeah, I'm serious, dude. But like, I've been at a conversation to the left of you outside in a parking lot, dude. My pants have fallen off, bro. Like my belt has literally broke, and my pants are like falling off as I'm trying to sell a $10,000 job. Like,
Did you sell it?
Yeah, bro. I close all day long, dude. If you're here, you're getting closed, bro. Like,
I love it, man.
This is my kill zone, dude. Like, it's harder to sell on the phone than it is.
Man, that's one thing I really admire about you, man. When you identify a weakness, you attack it, or like something that you could be better at, you attack it.
Yeah.
And I think that's that adaptability that we were talking about earlier too.
Yeah.
You adapt fast. You're always learning. You're not closed-minded. You don't like you're a prideful man. I'm a prideful man,
No, dude,
but you don't let
100%.
ego get the best of you.
Yeah.
You know, I think that ego runs rampant in our industry.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit more about your brand, because in the past 12 months, you've also not only tweaked and enhanced your sales process by becoming more of an expert to your target market, the Porsche customers, probably the Corvette guys, the different Tesla customers that come in here. But what about the marketing side? What really changed your thought process, or what was your goals when it came to building your brand? Because you got a powerful brand in a very competitive market. I don't think people understand or appreciate how competitive the LA region really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stronghold, man. I mean, people don't understand. There's a shop every 2 miles. Like, we joke around about it, but there's legit shops 5 miles down the road. And that's one of those things where when people would call me, I remember watching a video one day and it said, "Hey, never bash another shop." Right, which I don't feel like I ever have done.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to go down that road because you're trying to close, right?
Right.
But I also put myself in somebody else's shoes, and I'm like, hey, would I want to be closed like that? Would I want somebody saying, hey, dude, Joe Blow that has a kid, wife, and 10 other people working down the street do crappy work so I can get the job? I couldn't put myself in that position.
It's a hard life when you run your business.
Yeah, and it's like the marketing was the only avenue that I felt I could portray what I did, but not be rude or disrespectful, shun another shop, or put anybody else down in there. I'm very big on, like, there's people in this industry, they're in different levels. And if you've been doing this for a year and you're watching this, I would never tell you that you're anything different from me. I just have been given the ability to scale faster and bigger, but it doesn't mean anybody watching this can't be there. So, like, I've always surrounded myself with people like that. And I felt like marketing, like strategizing with you, a couple other people like that manage our websites and our marketing and our reels. Like, I just said, hey, I'm going to get everything I can out. Almost like I remember actually talking with you too about building a legacy. Like, my YouTube is not big, but my kids like brag about it.
I love
dude,
that.
My dad's on
it's
YouTube.
Powerful. That long form content.
Yeah, like my dad, like my son's like, Dad, we had this theory of doing episodes for a long time, and then the engagement wasn't there. We'll get back to it, but we did like a series of like 20 episodes and a day in the life. Yeah, like Shine Time. Like, so we'll get there. I felt like that was a little teaser, but I felt like God pushed us to do stuff quicker and faster and build stuff a little bit easier for people to get engaged with. Because I get a lot of calls like, I'm like, hey, do you want to watch a video? And they're like, yeah, as long as it's not 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's just people don't have time, man. They just want to know exactly what they're seeing, see the people in the shop, see the material, and be done.
Right.
Like, that's really, so there's like a 2 to 5 minute window there. So, but yeah, building my YouTube content, building marketing, giving people real advice and real education. Have had multiple conversations with people too. Like, I don't eat lunch here. I go out and eat lunch because I want people to see my cars. It's stupid stuff, bro. Like, I could bring my lunch.
Again, brand, man.
I could bring my lunch, right? Like, I'm on a health kick journey. Like, I could do all those things, but I feel like there's so many opportunities on a daily. That's why I wrap both my cars. I bought brand new cars simultaneously with a baby being born and a business growing all within 3 months of each other. And it was like, dude, you got to get your name out there. And I
love it, man.
I want a
growth
Porsche,
in all
right?
categories.
I want a Porsche, right? But like, that's just not where I got 4 kids, dude. And they're all 4 kids underneath 14 is like, yes, I'll get there. But at the same time, I was like, what can I have cool that nobody else has? And make my wife happy. So I bought her a Bronco, dream car, right?
Beautiful.
And then I bought myself a Suburban, and because I drive it consistently, and she wants the Bronco. And then I just branded both of them, dude. And it's been like,
beautiful.
I can literally walk out of my shop and be like, hey, dude, I have everything that you're trying to buy on my own car.
There it is.
Like, I'll pull it off, dude.
Mike
I don't
Norton
care.
says it. Shout out to Mike. Buy the damn car.
No. And I remember.
I mean, you have to be responsible, right?
Yeah.
Like, he just came off of an amazing year, and there's something to be said there about a profit year versus a growth year.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do both, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a growth year, you gotta sacrifice paying yourself a little bit. You know, you gotta focus on building your team, building your people, plan for the company that you're becoming, and then over the next 6 months. Like right now in Q1, this is the time to invest in your people. The
Yeah.
slow season just passed. Right now, there's not a better time during the year.
What's a slow season, bro? I don't believe in that.
What's that?
I don't believe in slow seasons.
I love that. See, there it is. You find a way to adapt, right?
Yeah,
We
but
know.
I did. I used to.
Do you believe in busy seasons?
I do. I feel like
So busy seasons come in March.
Yeah, I feel like there's a time where you're like, you know, a little bit in your own head, you know, like
That's
going
true.
crazy. But I
This
feel
is
like
a little slower,
I feel like the
little
slow
busier.
season. I feel like the slow season, and you even told me that on a phone call one time. You're like, bro, you got to get yourself out of that poor, like piss poor mindset, because like everybody can see it, bro. You read it in like 2 minutes on the phone. You're like, dude, everybody can see your struggles.
I think it's because, you know,
And you don't.
you got a bigger.
Like you say, like put it in the atmosphere. Like I would go out in the shop, dude, so contagious and so raw and so unethical. I'd walk out there and be
Yeah.
like, dude, we're not even booked, man.
Yeah.
And that energy would like, it's like a balloon was hanging on top of these guys and it was floating, and they're like, and it was like pop,
Get sucked out.
like you're
of the-
worthless. Go
I mean,
home.
we're
You know,
leaders
like
at the
that's
end
how
of the
quick
day.
it was, dude.
We're leaders at the end of the day, you know,
Yeah.
and it's really, it becomes more and more and more important, and we don't talk about it enough in this industry.
Yeah.
But it becomes more and more important the bigger the company becomes. You have more people, you have more mouths to feed, you have
Yeah.
more people to lead and inspire. If they're having a bad day, you got to bring them back
Yeah.
up, because if, you know, we could become the crutch.
Oh, 100%.
We could absolutely become the crutch, the bottleneck on the business, and you see it all the time. But at least go through it having a good attitude.
Yeah.
At least have a great attitude. Our team will only be half as good as we are, and their bad habits will be twice as bad as our
Yeah.
bad habits are. So if we're having a bad day, I mean, what do they feel like? If we're
Yeah.
scared and we have anxiety, what do they feel like?
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're looking up at you. So, you know, I think that, again, it just goes back towards having that right attitude, having that right mindset, and just being able to adapt. Being
Yeah.
able to adapt towards it, man.
Yeah, and just being real. I feel like going out to the shop and telling guys like, hey, like we're not like I'm fully transparent, but
Yeah.
I do it with no emotion. So I'll go out to my installers and be like, hey, you know what, dude, we're a little light next week. So if you want to plan something, or you looking to
There it
plan
is,
something, let me
yeah.
know. It's not that we're gonna stay slow. Like we're not going to make that contagious, but we are slower, right?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we're gonna have a funky week. The week, like this industry just goes through funks.
And
Like,
you have such strong communication with your team, man.
Yeah.
How important is transparency in your culture?
I feel like it's huge, but like you got to. There's like I feel like the brain is divided in half. Like I think differently than most people, but I feel like there's a transparency side, and then there's like a side where you just have to deal with your own struggles and get through those things. And
Right.
there's a wall that's like in between your brain that if you let the other thought jump over, that's when it becomes contagious and can be viral and cause problems.
Right.
So I feel like the transparency side is what I'm learning. Like, even though I'm stressed and I'm hurting and maybe my pocketbook's not laced the way I want it to be, I can still go out there and convey that it's okay. Like, go take your wife on vacation, stack your chips. I tell my guys all the time, hey, dude, we're getting a weird season. Like, stack your chips. Like, put some money away. It's good right now, but it's not always going to be good. Right?
More money
And
make, the more frugal you got to be.
Yeah, and it can't be that all the time. Like, we're on a hot streak right now. But
Yeah.
I know from my faith in God that there's something else coming. And it'll come when I don't want it to. It's
Right.
almost guaranteed, right? And it'll probably come the week that we're in that space.
Yeah.
I already prepared for it, dude. So if it doesn't come, great, bro. I'll get on my knees and praise. But, like, if it does come, I know I'm ready for it.
You know, you're thinking it through, you're planning ahead, you're strategizing, you're making the right moves, man. So hopefully you don't have that bad week, right?
No.
But even then,
They're not bad, though. They're just adjustments, you know?
adjustments. It's just a challenge. It's just a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been great to see the growth in Shine Detail. I'm looking at a Tesla right now from the door, and I see you guys working away.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time where you had to be back
In
there.
there.
We were just
Yeah.
talking about it. You couldn't come in and sit down with me or just kind of
Yeah.
talk with the guys and work on the business. You had to work in the business. What's on your mind after you move into that facility? I mean, what's coming next for Shine Detail?
I mean, I feel like, you know, me and George have always talked about potentially setting our futures up and our families up. So I was never one to feel like you could build a business to sell it. I always felt like you had to hold on to it and it was yours. But I feel like our time in California is limited, right? Just because of our beliefs and what we do, and just laws and regulations make it hard to be here. I mean, we're thankful to have grown.
the
so
fact
far.
that you have a storefront in California
Yeah, it's hard, dude.
is incredible.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen. Most people are in the back in a warehouse in California, you know?
Yeah. So I feel like our vision is bigger. I would never be opposed to expanding Shine to like different states or different eras, but right now I feel like our next 5 years is what we're committed to on this lease, and I fully believe in seeing that through and not cutting it short unless some God-foreseen circumstance happens, right, with health or whatever. But I feel like that's where we're at. That's where we need to be. But yeah, I feel like we're ready to grow. We're starting to look differently at metrics and like where we're at financially and putting pieces in the right place, making sure our financials are good. Our taxes, we've always done good. Like I'm a firm believer on credibility. If you guys are watching this and your credit's not there, I would probably start there. You know, I would probably start fixing those pieces because all the skeletons come out of the closet eventually.
They do.
Whether it be you go to apply for a car that you really want, that you think your business is going to grow. Like I'll tell you kind of just a quick little story that we're there, but like I was on the phone the other day. Of course, we all go through the seasons of Christmas, right? We all spend too much. All these things happen, right? And I overdrew our account for business, and I didn't even realize it. I was like, dude, we got a $25,000 credit limit. Like, we pay it off every month, but it's just everything's stacked. We had 3 days off here, 4 days off here. Payroll got janked. Like
your biggest weeks ever.
Yeah.
Too. Somebody,
you know, unfortunately, somebody on their credit card swiped and had insufficient funds. So like everything was backwards. And I was like, you know what? I got to call a bank and get a personal loan for 10 grand. Cover it all up, make sure it all good for taxes and get all that squared away with. And I was in the car with my son. I said, I could probably call tomorrow. I was like, dude, I'm going to be raw as hell right now, dude. My 14-year-old son is sitting in the front seat, and I'm going to be raw. And I'm going to call the bank. And I called the bank. I said, hey, I need 10 grand. I had this problem, this, and that. All these different things that business struggles with, right?
Right.
And my son's like looking at me like, dude, like he was kind of ignoring me, but he's listening. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, Mr. Johnson, all looks good. Your credit's at 840. Let's proceed with the loan. I'll get documents up to you.
Man, 840 is good.
Bro, I mean, I tried my whole life, bro. Like, I firmly believe that if somebody's going to trust you,
the back end is solid.
Credit
You're making sure the
everything
back end is solid.
If I looked into you and saw, I would see transparency because that's just who you are. I want the same for people, for me. Like, I want them to look at Shine and be like, hey, dude, he's got his stuff together. There's composure there, there's credibility there, there's longevity there. All these things need to line up. And within 25 minutes, I had $10,000 in my account.
That's great. That's awesome.
I think
and
for my son, it was
positive
like,
growth problem.
Yeah. It was like, dude, there's nothing wrong. We didn't steward our money incorrectly. We got hit with all these issues, right? And as a business owner, like you have to figure them out. And my son looked at it and he was like, dang, Dad, you got 10 grand that quick? And I was like, it doesn't have for everybody, son. You know, I said, I've just been very diligent in what I do and very silent in what I do. And thank God, like,
stay disciplined.
Yeah, God's had his hand over us and very disciplined, and we're good. And we got through it. And it was like just a hurdle, right? And then we're good. Paid it off, moved on, payroll cleared, everybody's good. Client's card got fixed. Like, we're all good, you know? Didn't let anybody see that because that's my side, right? But it was cool. Like, it was good knowing that I feel like that's where business is at. It's in a step where we found a great, amazing accountant like the last 3 months, totally God sent. And she's like, we talked about this earlier. She's like, you need to be writing off more. Like, there's a lot of stuff as a business owner I just didn't think of, right? Like, I just pay here, do this.
I mean, as the business grows too, you kind of outgrow people.
On
the back end.
Yeah.
And
I had to break that relationship off with a tax lady I've had for like 5 years. And she's like, just keep it sweet, keep it calm, like, and just say, hey, like, you're just not fitting where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I have a different vision of growth, and you're very by the book. And I feel like a lot of stuff is still by the book, but you're not pressing.
I mean, there's being by the book, and then there's
correct. Yeah, and
being irresponsible.
Yeah, and I just didn't. Our relationships didn't line up, and I think mentally that's where I'm at right now. Is like, if somebody comes in here and applies for a job and they're here for 3 months, they don't line up with me. I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you. There's no emotion behind it. I'm not saying like you're a bad human. You know, you're going to go drink and fall off a cliff. Like, none of that mentality. But it's like, dude, if you don't line up with the vision that we have here and the values we have here, and you can't be taught or teached, you're gone. And that's just the mental headspace I'm at. And it's like, my guys look, if I have the same pressures.
It becomes a cultural issue.
If I have a sign over my head with what I'm supposed to do, then I'm going to hang the same sign over your head.
Accountability, brother.
Yeah. And if you don't line up, then that's great.
When you look back, and if you had to start all over again, what would you do differently? What would be a bigger focus for you?
I joke around all this time because my kid's going into high school. So like, you want your kids to become educated, right? You're like, hey, go do something. But I'm like, your dad makes good money. DJ. So like I just thought about last night because we were like walking high schools and stuff. Yeah, and I'm like, God, man, dude, I spent like $50,000 on college, dude, and it's not that it's worthless. I just feel like, dude, if you have a passion for something and you feel like you can make something happen, like you gotta trust your gut. Whether it's a trade school, whether it's a tool, whether it's an art form, or whether it's visionary, whether it's speaking, like, dude, just go. Like, just jump, man. Because I feel like I jumped early, but I feel like if I wouldn't have gone to school for like 5-6 years, but even though I established discipline there, I feel like if I would have jumped 5 years earlier and just trusted my plan and like my talents and not try to fight it and go with the herd. What could have
happened? I see what you're saying.
I probably would have 2 locations by now.
What about,
I don't know.
True, I see what you're saying.
That's just putting it out there.
What about in business? What would you have done differently in business? What would be a bigger focus for you? Looking back, what was the most important skill or mindset shift, or what was the most important thing that you had to learn?
I honestly think it's emotional dissonance, like being able to process things and not let other people see them. I truly feel like if I would have honed my emotions and my trains of thought and how I process things, I firmly believe that we would be way further than we are now. Because there's a lot of mistakes that I made with clients, like good clients. Unfortunately in this industry, dude, like it's very cutthroat. And you meet good people and you meet people with high expectations, and they also look for you. They look at you as like, can this guy handle the emotions? And I've been tested before and I failed. And I feel like those connections are very close. And those connections are now with another shop, and I watch it and I'm like, dang, man, I could have that. You know? So I feel like the emotional side of it and just not being stressed constantly and just letting things like people help you would have been the bigger shift. Like if I would have started that a few years ago and like really started focusing on what I wanted and what the team needed.
So going into 2025, if someone is starting their journey in the detailing side, the film side of the industry, what advice would you give them going into 2025?
I would say get your hands on every educational piece of material you can. Like, I mean, dude, you know my skill set. We've been talking forever. I buy Mike Norton's books. Like, I mean, do I follow them to a T? No, but like I just get my hands on everything. Like I try to go to conferences when I can. Granted, I have not made this gentleman's conference for 3 years.
I wasn't gonna say it.
I also told him 2 years ago that if he wouldn't put me on stage and then talk, I wasn't gonna come.
Okay, wait. I think that's fair. I was gonna give you a lot of shit about that. But I would love for you to be a speaker at this year's conference.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things, like I joke around with you for like 3 years about it, right?
But I'm not joking. I'm asking you right now. Will you speak at this year's conference?
I will. I would love it. I'd love it, dude.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to make the announcement here. That's going to be the end of this interview. Cool, I don't think there's a better way to end it.
Yeah.
But guys, we're going to peel back some of the layers of Shine Detailing at this year's Autofilm Mastery Conference in 2025.
I appreciate it, dude. Thank you.
Excited.
Thank you.